Thank you very much for joining us on Wednesday morning here on Breakfast Central. As always, we have some of the biggest conversations happening here in Nigeria, different parts of the country, and bits and pieces of stories from around the continent. We encourage you to join us and be a part of the conversation simply by joining our social media platforms and sharing your views with us at News Central TV. Should be on your screen, and of course, via the phone lines when the phone lines are open sometime in the 8 o'clock hour. Just before we share with you our top stories, our conversations are continuing this morning in Rivers State with two interviews that were held yesterday from the governor of the state, Fubara, and of course the former governor, Nyesom Wike, trading blame and exchanging, of course, blame for what has happened in Rivers State in the last roughly 1 week, right from the local government elections and of course the violence that took place right after the local government elections. The drama has continued, and of course, the police, INEC, and every other person, has, had their own fair share of the blame. As of this morning, the Rivers State governor has said that investigations will be carried out to investigate who committed arson and destruction of Rivers State local government offices and government property. And of course, that must be encouraged, but a lot of Nigerians obviously are not expecting that there will be any actual, headway with regards to those investigations. Nigerians will encourage the police to do what they must do to ensure that those who burnt those offices are arrested. And of course, not just those who burnt the offices. If you remember, on the Vanguard newspapers just yesterday, the Vanguard reported 5 people killed as a result of the violence in Rivers State and in their local government after the local government elections. And so it's not just the arson, but also those who were reportedly killed as a result of the violence. This is some of the things that I believe should make the top conversations across the state and maybe even across the country this morning, as both sides continue to trade blame. And of course, as the Rivers State governor, of course, continues to figure out a way to survive the next 4 years as governor. The presidency has also been called upon to step in and, of course, create an avenue for peace, encourage peace in the state. That also includes the heads of the PDP. Both warring factions are members of the PDP as it stands. And so they would also be mentioned to encourage peace and, of course, wade into these issues and see what they can do to ensure that peace remains in Rivers State. In my opinion, and of course, it's one of the things that we're going to be talking about later today on Which Way Nigeria, the calls for peace and justice and calm in Rivers State must not go without a call for proper investigations into the killings that reportedly occurred in the violence at the local government offices just yesterday and the day before. Those whose lives have been lost must be properly investigated, and those who committed those crimes against the people of Rivers State must be properly investigated. But the fear really is it the police that has been accused of being partisan that will carry out investigations? Is it the same police force that has been accused, not just by Fubara, but many other persons, of being partisan in the issues concerning Rivers State that will carry out investigations? Is it the same police that withdrew its forces and withdrew men of the Nigerian police force, right after the elections? First of all, didn't involve itself in the local government elections, and then withdrew its men from local government offices right after the elections. Is that the same police that we expect to carry out proper investigations into those who were killed in Rivers State? Those lives must not go, must always be a part of the conversation. And of course, the investigations are extremely important as we continue to, of course, seek for a peaceful settlement in Rivers State. The presidency also has been called upon to caution its minister of the FCT, the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, in all of this controversy. Even if there's people who say that Nyesom Wike has no hand in it, many other Nigerians would beg to differ. And of course, his actions, his utterances in the last couple of weeks, maybe even months, maybe in the last year, would show that he does have somehow, some way, some level of interest in what has happened in Rivers State in the last 1 year and the chaos that has ensued in the last 1 year. And so, these conversations must continue today. This morning, we would continue to wade through those waters and figure out what next steps and, of course, what the next course of action might be for the Rivers State government and, of course, for the Nigerian government, the Nigerian police force as well, and, of course, every other interested party concerning what's going on in Rivers State. But let's share with you this morning what our top stories are, and right after that, we'll bring you breakfast headlines. This morning, Nyesom Wike accuses Fubara of sponsoring APP in Rivers local government polls. Court affirms Julius Abure as Labour Party chairman. And also, reps hike ways and means loans to 10%, as from an SBM report. We'll be looking into that. Pro-Fubara supporters take over secretariats amid tensions. We'll also bring you to the newspaper front pages this morning, share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. Stay with us. Now let's begin breakfast headlines in southern Nigeria, where River State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has said that his administration will not fold its hands and watch sponsored political thugs run berserk, committing arson in the state. The governor therefore assured that, working with the Nigerian Police Force and the Directorate of State Services, DSS, measures will be taken to unravel those behind the recent burning of council secretariats at Ikwere, Emoha, and Eleme local government areas, with a view to making them account for their atrocities. Meanwhile, River State Governor Nyesom Fubara has inaugurated a judicial commission of inquiry to investigate the violence that recently erupted in various local government areas of the state. According to the governor, the commission was long overdue, recalling that a similar incident occurred about a year ago where he chose to overlook. Governor Fubara also noted the troubling similarities between the current situation and the events that unfolded before 2013 and 2014, which were marked by courtroom disruptions, arson, and assassinations. Away from Rivers State, we now head to the judiciary, where a federal high court in Abuja has reinstated Julius Abure as the national chairman of the Labour Party. The court upheld the validity of the party's 2024 national convention held in Nnewi, where Abure was re-elected. Justice Emeka Nwite ruled that the convention adhered to all legal procedures and directed the Independent National Electoral Commission to recognize Abure's leadership. This decision comes after INEC had previously refused to acknowledge Abure, claiming that the March 2024 convention violated the Nigerian Constitution and the Electoral Act. However, the court's ruling now affirms Abure as the legitimate leader of the Labour Party. Still in the news and staying with the courts, an Italian court has sentenced two Milan prosecutors, Fabio De Pasquale and Sergio Spadaro, to 8 months in prison for withholding evidence in a major corruption case involving ENI and Shell. The case centered on a $1.3 billion oil field acquisition in Nigeria. The court in Brescia, which oversees Milan's judiciary, found that the prosecutors failed to file key documents, including a video from an external lawyer that could have helped ENI's defense. And now, of course, still in the legislature, or rather now to the legislature, where the Nigerian Senate has successfully passed the second reading of the Investment and Securities Bill 2024. This new legislation aims to replace the outdated Investment and Securities Act of 2007 and is designed to promote economic growth in the country. The initiative was led by Senate leader Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele and Senator Osita Izunaso, who highlighted the critical role of the capital market in driving economic progress. Other senators voiced their support for the bill, expressing confidence that it will better protect investors through stricter regulations and enhanced market transparency. The House of Representatives has issued a 7-day ultimatum to the CEO of Oando PLC, Wale Tinubu, and the management of ITO over repeated oil spills in oil-producing communities. Chairman of the Environment Committee, Julius Pondi, gave the directive during an investigative hearing into the environmental impact of transporting crude oil by ITO from Nembe Creek trunk to offshore storage. Pondi expressed concern over Owando's failure to attend the hearing despite multiple invitations and mandated the companies to appear before the Joint Committee within a week. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Let's head now back to Breakfast Central and get into our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbonwa.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. The conversations continue not just here in Lagos State, but in Rivers State, that has been the core of the conversation in the past week, following the ongoing political crisis in Rivers State that has led to the burning of some local government secretariat complexes. Some pro-Fubara supporters said that they will occupy the offices until full normalcy is restored across the affected local government areas in the state. Now, this is coming as the newly deployed Commissioner of Police to the state, Bala Mustafa, pledged to swiftly restore calm in the local government areas where incidents of violence and arson have occurred in recent days. News Central's correspondent, Austin Azu, who is monitoring developments in Rivers State, brings us details.
It's day 2 since the newly sworn-in chairmen and councillors in Rivers State, absorption of their offices was marred by violence, gunshots, and the burning down of some local government secretariat complexes in the state. Meanwhile, the newly deployed Commissioner of Police to the state, Bala Mustafa, who assumed office on Tuesday, assured the residents of Rivers State of peace and security, even as he pledged to swiftly restore calm in the local government areas where incidents of violence and arson have occurred.
We are proactively taking action, square those places, and implement security measures to safeguard life and property of Rivers State, as well as those councils.
At the Port Harcourt City Abure, some youths were on the ground alongside some security agencies, believed to be there to secure the secretariat and its facilities.
And this day too, as you can see, we woke up with a surprising visit with gunshots. Some persons came thinking we are off guard, but we stood guard to make sure that this council is steadfast and resolute. We made sure we chased them away. Our security persons, the civil defense and the police, took charge to make sure that we chased the men. They came with 2 vehicles.
Actually, we could not identify them, but at least the state government and the good people of Rivers State know who their actual sponsors is or are. Is one man that is sponsoring them in Rivers State. And in our local government here, they are being sponsored by some persons through the one man. And his name is no other than the FCT Minister of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
At Ikwere Ejire Secretariat, a truck of the Nigeria Police is stationed at the gate, while supporters of the governor occupied the premises. New Central News crew were, however, conducted round the burnt offices and legislative chambers.
Things are avoidable because, come to think of it, whose money will be used to rebuild this? Is it individuals that will contribute? They won't contribute money. When the monthly allocation comes, they will take money from there and rebuild this place and repair all the damage that had taken place. That money would have been utilized to solve 1 or 2 problems for the people. You and I know how tough it has been for Nigerians today. And yet, instead of going forward, we are swimming backward like a crab.
And as the women, they are gathering me here. Every one of them who did this evil will remain in their house, one after the other. In Jesus' name, amen.
Sincerely, nobody is happy. Everybody is a casualty because even if nobody died, but the Kure people, they are casualties. And that is why you see we have come out in our numbers to come down here. We have decided to live here. We'll sleep here, we'll cook here, we'll eat here. We'll not go away from here till normalcy is restored, because we don't want the hoodlums to come back here again and cut away the remaining things.
These people you are seeing here have pledged not to leave this facility until their demands are met, which includes restoring normalcy to this particular facility you are seeing here. But how soon is soon that peace will return to this area? Days ahead will tell. In Ikwere local government area of Rivers State, I'm Austin Azu.
Well, thanks to Austin Azu for that report, and pretty interesting seeing residents in Rivers State deciding to, of course, man the offices of the local government in the state to ensure that there's some level of calm. Now, the crisis in Rivers State doesn't seem to be near its end with all the acts of violence which have taken place in the aftermath of the local government elections in the state. While the River State government has constituted a judicial commission of inquiry to probe the widespread violence and fatalities that erupted in the state on Monday, many wonder how much damage will be recorded when this political strife comes to an end.
Meanwhile, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, has accused Governor Siminalayi Fubara of being the architect of violence in the state, saying that the governor was wrong to go ahead with the local government election. Siminalayi Fubara, on the other hand, has called for peace to reign, stating that Wike doesn't need to win every fight. Joining us this morning is Dr. Ima Oka, lawyer and former River State Commissioner for Information and Housing under Governor Celestine Omehia and Nyesom Wike. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right. You've seen the chaos that has, started to unravel in River State. The people of River State have now resorted to playing security for themselves against actors that some would refer to as maybe state actors disguised in, different means. But I'd ask you what your thoughts are regarding what Nyesom Wike has said. He said that the local government elections should not have happened and that Siminalayi Fubara is the architect of violence in River State.
Thank you very much. I heard him say so, but my reaction is that it is very unfortunate because we are here to still be far from getting these problems resolved. I don't know how the FCT minister have become the accuser and the prosecutor and the judge at the same time. If a matter is pending before the appropriate court and the court makes an order, albeit injunctive or otherwise, it is for the court to protect its integrity and order. It is not for anybody in the mood of those who are burning and looting and destroying various council secretariats to do so. So for the FCT minister to justify their action simply because they disobeyed a court order points clearly to what everyone here knows, that he certainly knows much more than we know about those destructions that took place in the councils. So I don't agree with him. If there is a breach of court order or injunction, the court is imbued with inherent powers to protect its integrity and orders. It doesn't need any third party to do that for it, because the court is acting under the laws of our land. In any case, let us even assume that there are such breaches. Should resort to this calculated degree of violence be the option. So where is the rule of law? Are we in an animal kingdom? If everybody began taking up arms against judgments that they didn't like, or against reported cases of breaches of court order, where would Nigeria be? We would have gone into flames all this while. Yeah. So that excuse and that explanation, in my view, is thoroughly laughable. Yeah. And he has brought down the FCT minister much lower than many of us had thought.
Yeah, I mean, some of the people that we spoke with yesterday, who were, of course, one of the local government officers, said that the FCT minister and former Governor Nyesom Wike is fully behind the violence and the chaos that has occurred in River State in the last long while. Do you agree with that? And that includes some of these thugs that went on to attack the local government offices. Would you say that Nyesom Wike is fully behind them, or at least responsible for them?
We are reversible. We understand how these things work. You don't need to come down here to physically be involved in what is happening. But through subterranean moves, body language and all of that, we know, we understand. We also know those local governments that we are prone to, this kind of crisis. We know how the formal administration in those local governments, have been reacting towards the governor of River State since this crisis started. So, except for those who don't live here, everyone here knew that the local government, for instance, was going to be witness this level of wanton destruction intentionally. And our local government, of course, we knew it was going to suffer the same fate. And the same goes for LMA local government. They were properly predicted, and they just happened according to predictions. So Well, it's easy. It's maybe because God does not act the way men act. Otherwise, you cannot threaten the people this way. Go ahead and execute it. And then at the end of the day, you are still having the guts to begin to point accusing fingers at innocent people and all of that.
All right.
So
Just to confirm.
my word for the FCT minister and those who are working with him is that there's always a day of reckoning for everyone for all that we do. It's simply as that. Of course, like I said yesterday, those facilities will be rebuilt with the people's money, but all is not avoidable. And if you check the ethnic configuration of Rivers State, you will see that the Ijaw local government did not tamper with any of the council secretariats. They allowed their local governments to be. It's only on the Kwere side, and maybe the one that happened at Eleme, who felt that, they needed to impress somebody, up there by going to destroy government property, which had served their interest, forgetting that the same government resources will be used, public resources will be used to restore those things. So who is losing? At the end of the day, it's the people of Rivers State that are losing, as it were.
Just to...
But we'll not forget, our people will not forget.
Just to quickly confirm,
a day of reckoning must come.
All right, just to quickly confirm, you served under former Governor Nyesom Wike's cabinet. You were sworn in on the 12th of June 2015 as a House Commissioner, correct?
Correct.
All right. Talk to us about how it was serving
I served as Housing Commissioner. I also served as Information Commissioner for 2 years each.
Great. Talk to us about how it was serving in Nyesom Wike's cabinet when he was governor. The quality of his character at the time, his style of leadership, and how he has become this also powerful figure over the years that seems not to be able to be disciplined by the People's Democratic Party.
Well, I don't want to be very judgmental about what happened while we were in government, because that is gone now. But I also don't need to tell Nigerians about the character of the FCT minister. All these are in the public domain. But I don't find him a good and fair leader who fears God. It's as simple as that. For him, power and money is everything. Once he's able to get that, any other thing can happen. That's my fair assessment of him.
Now, why I ask this question is because we want to be able to observe what might have been the trajectory. You had a first-hand experience. There are people who argue now that Siminalayi Fubara is trying to dismantle a structure that he may end up using. So there's a fear that when people come into government, sometimes they start out right, and at the end of the day, power intoxicates, and when they've created their own structure, they try to manipulate it for their own will. So it's why we're asking, what it was like, what your personal experience was with him, and, what you think might have influenced this part, grab that has occurred and has made him a very powerful figure. But, I mean, if you can speak to that would be great.
Thank you very much. Many of us know that the marriage between the FCT minister and the governor was not going to last long. Clearly, we understand it. Because to put it softly, he likes to occupy his space and would not want any other person to be visible. And so merely handing over, as painful as it was, we knew it was just a temporary relief and that he was going to come back to want to take over the space. And we saw all that happen. Don't forget that even after leaving office, he was the one who nominated over 90% of the commissioners and the aides and handed them over to the governor. Who does that kind of a thing? If every predecessor did that to their successor, how would the society move forward? In any case, nobody even did that for the FCT minister when he was governor here. And to put it very mildly, I think that Governor Fubara is a very peace-loving person. And any predecessor that has a man like that, should thank his stars every day and glorify God every day. Because here is a man who was told to sit, he will sit. Stand up, he will stand up. Appoint so and so, he would appoint. Eat so and so food in the morning, he will eat. Don't allow Mr. ABC visit you until your tenure finishes. It's okay. Don't come to Abuja to attend meetings so that other politicians don't begin to feed you with hostile ideas. He would agree. So despite doing all of this, many of us are asking, what else will be required of the governor of Rivers State to do to please his predecessor? So that points to the character of the predecessor, a dominant and domineering man who does not brood any secondary opinion. Yeah. That's who he has been. You Nigerians know this much about him. We saw it all. He was governor, he's still minister, and all of that. Yeah. Today it's easy to sanctimoniously preach to be that nice person who obeys rule of law, throwing shade at the governor and all that. It's okay, but no matter how much he tries to justify what has happened in Rivers State, a lot of Nigerians, a majority of Rivers people know that he is the cause of the problem that has been in the state since he left office, because he wants to be here as governor through the back door and also remain in Abuja as FCT minister. Simple and clear.
All right. If you've described Sim Fubara as a very loyal and maybe even obedient successor to Nyesom Wike, you've even said that some of the things that you mentioned, which is don't allow this person to visit you, do not come to Abuja, were those some of the things that Nyesom Wike had demanded of Sim Fubara when he became governor? And then also, at what point did their falling apart start? What is the real reason behind the breaking their relationship?
There are two types of pig in the bush. One is the one that comes to your farm and destroys your products and run away after eating them up. The second one is the one that comes to the farm, eats off your product, and waits for the owner of the farm to attack him. That is the exact situation where we are today. There is a limit to how any man can take certain instructions. You cannot tell him, even your own child, there is a limit to how you can tell a child to do certain things, and continue to have the level of compliance, 100% compliance you require. Once you cross that line, even a baby will cry and will be crying. And when the baby is crying, you too will be awake to pacify the baby. That's where we are. And yes, allow a governor to do his job. Once you don't allow him to do his job, there will be rebellion at some point. There will be resistance at some point. So that resistance is what gave rise to the present crisis. Take, for instance, what is one of the reasons? Commissioners were nominated for the governor, and he appointed them, and they were working with him. Some of them will take their memo to a third party, discuss the memo, discuss approval, before they come to the governor to present the memo to the governor. So there were two governments, so to speak, as it were, one in Rivers State, the other in outside Rivers State. Now, the governor only appointed the present commissioner for information, and heaven broke loose. Just one appointment, only heaven broke loose. A sitting governor and governor of Rivers State, who would take that? Let's face it, who would take that? So these are some of the underlying reasons why the relationship broke down. But like I said, we knew the relationship was going to break down. But what many of us didn't see coming is that the relationship was going to break down much earlier.
All right.
Than we thought.
Sorry to spend too much time talking about this particular one, because I also wanted to talk about the role of the presidency and the police and other maybe interested parties. But what you're describing here is a situation where Sim Fubara was okay with being subservient, loyal to Nyesom Wike, and of course him appointing commissioners for him, maybe even nominating House of Assembly members and the likes for him. But it maybe got to a stage where he then said, oh, this is too much. So are you saying now that if it didn't get to that stage, Sim Fubara would have been fine with Nyesom Wike helping him run the affairs of government in Rivers State, just as much as he doesn't get to this breaking point?
Like I said, there should be limits to everything. There is time for everything. Even the Bible says that. No successor will be better than Sim Fubara. Any predecessor governor who has a man in the mold of Governor Sim Fubara in Rivers State, like I said, should go for Thanksgiving every day, as it were. We have cases where other governors have served out their term. They have had to go. Akwa Ibom is there. Quite a few other states are there. You know, look at Lagos State, for instance, and all that. Yes, even when you have to, you know, interfere with the administration, you do it with some measure of responsibility, and sometimes behind the scene. But you don't brazenly come and tell a tiger that he must eat a grass when you know that he has to feed on flesh. And yes, he continued to eat that grass just to make you happy. And at the end of the day, even all those sacrifices, you know, we are not appreciated until matters got to the heat where we are.
Yeah,
today.
I mean, so it's pretty much the same thing, you know.
That's the unfortunate situation we found ourselves.
So it's pretty much the same thing. It still sounds like Sim Fubara was willing to play ball until maybe it got to a breaking point, and then he could no longer, you know, accept it because it was too much. But initially, he was willing to, you know, of course, you know, play ball with Nyesom Wike's orders. But we might come back to this. Let's quickly talk about the statement from the presidency. Many people have asked President Bola Tinubu to wade in and, of course, you know, create some level of peace between these two factions. The statement that was released, as read by, or at least released by Bayo Ononuga on behalf of the presidency, seemed to mention mostly Sim Fubara and ignore the FCT minister. Why do you think that is? And of course, did you expect a better response from the presidency?
Well, as a former chief press secretary, I know that sometimes we use words or interpret situations to also portray biases, so to speak. The president would not come himself to draft statements, as it were, and does also not necessarily need to read statements, you know, put out there by the media aides, as it were. Well, in reference to the governor of Rivers State in that press statement has been interpreted differently by different people. Yes, I've had some people who said, oh, the governor of Rivers State's name was mentioned because he's the chief security officer, you know, of the state, so to speak. But I will align myself with the position of the governor of Rivers State, who said, Mr. President, sir, I think you should also have mentioned the name of the people or the name of the leader of the people who are causing the destruction in Rivers State, because we believe, the reason why I say so is this, we believe that the president has access to superior intelligence gathering system. And everybody on ground in Rivers State would have told him through his intelligence network who is causing the problem. So when you leave out the man who is causing the problem, and then you begin to point at an innocent person, people begin to wonder whether, first, are you appreciating what we're seeing here? Or do you understand what the situation on ground is? Or are you trying to please somebody at the expense of the lives and property of the people of Rivers State? So these things leave doubts. But if the intention of Mr. President is to say, Chief Security Officer of Rivers State, the Governor of Rivers State, please make sure you do everything within your powers to contain the situation with the assistance of the security agents. Fine, we can understand that. But if you must call out names of people who should stand up for peace, please, the name of the FCT minister should have been mentioned first before that of the governor. That's how I see it. But I do not think that Mr. President wants to over-interfere The only worry we have here is that even the previous intervention he did, yes, as bitter as it was, we swallowed it. People here swallowed it painfully. The situation does not appear to be abating. And because one person appears to be taking the heat, the governor is taking the heat most of the time. And we don't want him to get to a breaking point. We also don't want our people to get to a point where it will become difficult to manage them. Niger Delta has been a very volatile region, we all know, for a very long time now. If you don't manage the peace, if you don't manage the situation here well, it could generate into a conflagration that will consume a lot of people and also impact negatively on national assets. And when that happens, naturally oil production will be affected. And Nigeria needs every drop of crude oil it can produce today to be able to shore up its economic situation, as it were.
All right.
So this is what is making the governor all the time wanting to show by his nature that he's a man of eminent peace. And we must appreciate this fact about him. He's not a coward, certainly cannot be called a coward.
All right.
Even if by nature he's a coward, the office he occupies today makes him a lion. And if he decides to fight back or decides to, through his body language, allow his supporters to also go and defend themselves or resist this frequent intrusion and destruction of property of council secretariats, for instance, you and I can guess clearly what the consequences will be like. But we pray that the situation doesn't get to that point. And that's why we think that Mr. President should intervene appropriately.
There are many people that need to intervene at this point.
Call it a spade, a spade.
There are many people who need to intervene at this point or who have been asked to intervene. The presidency, the People's Democratic Party that seems to be very silent. Ugochinyere seems to be the one that is speaking very loudly. And I mean, just so many sides of the divide, different arguments, but we'll keep updating the conversation as we get further reports in the story. Thank you so much, Dr. Emma Oka, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful.
All right. Now let's move away the conversation from Rivers State. The president stated during the 64th Independence Day address to the nation that the federal government has cleared Ways and Means debt of over 30 trillion naira. According to the President Tinubu, the country is gradually leaving the fiscal imbalances, such as huge debt to GDP ratio, huge backlog of forex forwards owed to businesses and more. Many analysts and groups have since cast their doubt on the president's claim.
Now, despite reports of the Central Bank of Nigeria breaking its own laws, allegedly lending above 5% limit, the institution says it is maintaining its Ways and Means advances to the federal government at 5% still. This follows a bill passed by the National Assembly, which raised the maximum borrowing percentage in the Act from 5% to 10%. Joining us is economic and investment analyst Tilewa Adebanjo. Good morning, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good to have you. I think, first of all, we need to get some clarity on the president's claims that the 30 trillion Ways and Means has been repaid. Many say that the president exaggerated the 30 trillion Ways and Means repayment. Let's first of all get your thoughts on that. Has that loan been paid back? Or did Mr. President use some technical maneuvers to make that claim?
Thank you very much, and good morning. As far as the Ways and Means is concerned, I think what we should understand is that the Ways and Means is still on the books of the Central Bank of Nigeria as of today. There's still about 32 to 33 trillion, according to what we have seen. What happened with the Ways and Means was that the Ways and Means were securitized, and they were sent to the National Assembly to approve that securitization. But unfortunately, that is illegal. The National Assembly does not have the power to approve the securitization of Ways and Means for repayment to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Section 38 of the CBN Act is very clear that the Central Bank of Nigeria cannot accept securitization as a way of repayment of Ways and Means facility. So that is what the CBN Act says. Now, even though you might have increased the limit, the fact is that you cannot borrow any more money from Ways and Means until you have paid the existing outstanding Ways and Means. The previous government, under President Buhari, accumulated about 23.7 trillion in Ways and Means, and this current government added another 7 trillion to it in 5 months last year, making it a total of over 30 trillion. So what needs to happen in Nigeria today is that the central bank needs to clarify the position. The Ministry of Finance, through the Debt Management Office, also needs to clarify the position. And what we need to do is we need to create remedial legislation to be able to resolve these Ways and Means problems. Either we set up a resolution trust vehicle, such as an AMCON for the federal government, that will allow the Central Bank of Nigeria to be able to accept a form of repayment that is within the terms of the law. To add to that, I think the Central Bank of Nigeria is yet to publish its accounts for 2023. The 2022 account, which was done by the previous governor of the central bank, shows 23.7 trillion in Ways and Means with a footnote as credits to government. So that has already been reflected in its books. But of course, again, it hasn't told us how it got approval to extend its limits for Ways and Means, which is below 1 trillion, to actually about 32 trillion as we are today. So that is really where we are today with Ways and Means.
All right. Still talking about, you made reference to Section 38 of the CBN Act 2007. And one thing that the Act does provide for is that the CBN, Ways and Means should be a last resort, not a primary financier of the government's debt. In the way that the government has carried this administration and the last administration, would you say that they have sought, use this as a means of last resort and not a primary financier? And what would you say are the implications of the fact that maybe we keep hearing conversations about Ways and Means over and over again? What will be the implication on the economy?
Well, as you have rightly said, Section 38 of the CBN Act looks at Ways and Means as a very, very punitive form of financing. It is not the sort of financing that you're supposed to go to. It's not your go-to source of financing. It's a financing of last resort. First of all, the criteria is such that the money you can borrow must be based on your previous year's revenue. So it's a percentage of that previous year's revenue. So even with the increase with the National Assembly, the Ways and Means should not be more than 1.5 to at least 1.5 trillion. That is what the law allows. But it's currently at 30 trillion. So you can see that that is indeed a gross violation of the Ways and Means financing. So what we need to do, as you have said, is the fact that there are reasons why this Ways and Means was put in place. When Obasanjo got debt relief for Nigeria way back then, one of the criteria that a lot of the institutions asked was that we set up an independent debt management office. The debt management office was set up, which was funded by DFID. Then we also had to set up the Fiscal Responsibility Act. A Fiscal Responsibility Commission was also set up, and this Section 38 was included in the CBN Act. And all these things were like financial circuit breakers to be able to help government to be able to be within the lines and the tenets of fiscal responsibility. So that was the reason why after the Obasanjo debt restructuring and debt forgiveness that we had to put in financial circuit breakers, legal and regulatory framework to prevent government from getting itself into this situation. So that's why all these laws were put in place. So government is really not supposed to resort to Ways and Means. It's supposed to be a funding of probably last resort. And the reality of Ways and Means is that the money you borrow, you're supposed to pay it back that same year. Otherwise, you will no longer have access to it. So that is why it's important that we need to sit down. We need to look at remedial legislation to be able to resolve this Ways and Means problem, because the Central Bank of Nigeria is going to be challenged to be able to reflect Ways and Means financing on its balance sheet and on its accounts without violating Section 38 of its own act. So that is really where the central bank has its challenge.
Yeah.
So that's why we're saying we need remedial legislation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was in the news a few months ago where Layemi Cardoso said that the government had paid back 7.3 trillion naira Ways and Means. So some people are assuming that that's what the president was referring to. The securitization of the 22.3, I believe, trillion naira, it's a different conversation entirely. And that's why initially I said, he's maybe using technical terms or maneuvers rather to claim that those funds have been paid back. It's also, maybe a little heartbreaking for economists and for Nigerians to see how the gains that Nigeria achieved in the Obasanjo administration and these circuit breakers that were put in place have now somehow just been thrown away. And we found ourselves where we are today in trillions and trillions of naira in debt. Talk a little bit more, provide some clarity as to the 5%, 10% argument, and also what exactly in core terms is securitization?
Thank you very much. The 5% was the original limit which the law was put into place. That is the limit of borrowing. So in order for you to go for Ways and Means financing, you can borrow maybe 5% of your previous year's revenue.
Yes.
So if you had revenues of 10 trillion the previous year before, you can only borrow 5% of that. So the legislators were now trying to increase it that you should be able to borrow 10% of the previous year's revenue. So they were trying to double the Ways and Means limits. But that's not the issue. The issue is the fact that you can't even increase even if you look at the limit of where Ways and Means is right now at 30 trillion. Our last year's revenue was about 17 trillion. Projected revenue last year. So if you take a look at 30 trillion and you look at 17 trillion, you are finding out that the government is borrowing over 60%. The Ways and Means position right now is about 60% of previous year's revenue. So it's way above the 5% or the 6% limits. It's you can see how that is. But the next question you have also asked, can you please remind me of your second question?
I'm trying to get our viewers to understand exactly what securitization means. I know you started by talking about how it was illegal, but what does it really mean?
Yes, securitization is legal. It's when you convert a loan into what you normally do is the government has an active program, which is the government bonds, which we see, such as treasury bills, are all securities that government sells on the capital markets. So that is really what you call securities, which is like the bond, the bonds, the government bonds and the government treasury bills are securities which the government raises on the capital markets. So that is the instruments, the investment instruments that the government sells to the capital markets. They're termed as securities. The money that government borrows from the central bank, as you know, directly is a loan. So if you take a look at what securitization is, that means that if you have a loan and you feel that you cannot you want to get more money, then you go to the capital markets, then you convert your loan into a security such as a bond, and then you sell it to the public, and investors such as pension funds and other institutional investors and even private people, including banks, also will buy into those securities. Those are government securities And we have a program which is managed by the Debt Management Office. So the Debt Management Office is in charge of issuing government securities. Now, that is very different from when the federal government goes to the central bank and requires a direct loan. And that is really what we're talking about with ways and means. So government has multiple ways of financing itself, either through going to the capital markets to issue government securities, which is very distinct from when it goes to the central bank to borrow money directly, or it goes to the World Bank to borrow money directly. And government also has access to the international financial markets where it goes to raise Eurobonds, which is another form of international security, which is dominated in US dollars. So that's the big difference between a direct loan and a security. Securities are the ones that come into the capital markets for the general investment public.
All right. There was a photo that was put up earlier by our production team, the graphics by the CFG advisory, to show how we fared in the past, from 2010 to 2024. And if you look at that, from 2010 up until 2019, it was less than 10 trillion. And between 2020 and 2024, it's gone over 30 trillion. So we've seen some measure of maybe lack of financial prudence or fiscal prudence in the past 4 years. My concern is what the projection will be, maybe say for the next 2 to 4 years, and what this says to investors. What message are we conveying to our investors?
Thank you very much. Well, what I think is clear is that I think the central bank governor and also the Minister of Finance have said very clearly that they have stopped ways and means financing. We just need to confirm how much has been paid back. I think the announcement I saw last time, I've heard about 3 trillion has been paid back. As you can see, the graph has dropped between 2023 and 2024. We've seen a slight reduction in ways and means. That's the repayment that has been done, about between 3 to 4 trillion. The impact of ways and means is such that it causes inflation. One of the problems that we have is the fact that there's a direct correlation between the increase in ways and means and the increase in inflation that we have today. And right now, this has also moved money supply to about 100 trillion, which is a record high. So the only way I see this going back forward, especially with the sort of level of exposure and the level of interest that we now have in Nigeria in ways and means, is such that this is something that has been stopped. And I think that the only way that this can happen is that we need to go down to take it back to its limits. Ways and means financing right now from the CBN Act should not be more than 2 trillion naira.
Okay, well, I mean, the next couple of months, maybe the next year, we'll see what new decisions that they take. Nigeria currently, I believe, they argue has a financing problem. And how do you think our financing issues will be sorted out? As we, of course, struggle with the NNPC, struggle with oil production and all that. How do you think that those problems could be sorted out?
It's very easy. It's not a big deal. What we need to do, first of all, is that we have lost our oil production. So we need to make the right investments. I've spoken to a lot of experts in the oil and gas industry, and a lot of them can find various assets that are currently idle, that if they make the right investments into those assets, we can increase our production by 900,000 barrels within the next 12 to 18 months. But we need to make the investments. Second of all, I think, as I've argued, the federal government needs to sell down its JV assets. NNPC has a lot of JV assets that it's partnering between 60%, and some of these it owns 100%. So NNPC needs to sell down its JV assets. And in the process of selling down its JV assets, I believe the government can raise $50 billion. By raising $50 billion, it puts you in a fantastic position, not only to resolve the issues of your debt, to help repay some of the debt, but also it gives you room to be able to engage in some fiscal projects. Because if you take a look at the fiscal side of things right now, the debt service budget is 8 trillion naira. The education budget is 2 trillion naira. And the defense budget is also about 2 trillion naira. So what you are telling us is that debt service is 4 times both the education and the defense budget. So this is not a sustainable position. So I think there are options available to the federal government, which is investing in the oil and gas sector, providing the necessary incentives for people to ramp up production back to about 2 million barrels a day. If we're producing 2 million barrels a day with oil at $70 a barrel, we won't have this position. We now have the Dangote refinery in operation, and the Dangote refinery will also reduce the demand for foreign exchange. Cost of oil importation and subsidy was close to $10 billion a year. So it will reduce the pressure on FX demand, which is a good sign for us. And of course, like I've said, you sell down your JV assets, you get another $50 billion. So then you restructure and you put the economy towards the path of recovery. Because right now, the reform program is in a form of quagmire. And, the mistakes of the past where the government put the cart before the horse, we need to begin to correct that. And the biggest challenge our economy faces today is that of inflation. Ways and means and money supply at 100 trillion is causing significant inflation.
Right.
With inflation at 33%, you are reducing people's purchasing power. And we have 133 million Nigerians in multidimensional poverty.
I mean, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. We're talking about the numbers, but the everyday average Nigerian is feeling the heat and the impact of what, these decisions have caused on our economy. But, I mean, these are ongoing conversations. Thank you so much, Tilewa Adebajo, for joining us this morning on the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, now let's share with you a recap of the conversations this morning and then what's coming up next. Wike accuses Fubara of sponsoring APP in Rivers local government polls. And we're joined by the former housing commissioner to have this conversation. Reps hike ways and means loan to 10% according to an SBM report. We just concluded the conversation with economic and investment analyst Tilewa Adebajo, and pro-Fubara supporters take over secretariats amid tensions. Our correspondent Austin Azu brought all the details via a report. Now let's show what's coming up next.
Coming up next, court affirms Julius Abure as Labour Party chairman. And also the newspaper front pages, the major stories making headlines across Nigeria this morning. We'll also be bringing you Which Way Nigeria.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Now we review the front pages of the newspapers this morning. And as is our custom, we'll open the phone lines for you to join. But we do have guest analyst, political analyst Adebo Ali Johnson joining us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good to have you. Let's head over to the papers. And our first paper for the morning is the Punch newspaper. On the front page of the Punch newspaper, marketers to begin direct Dangote petrol purchase. New pump price looms as national oil firms move to dump 99 billion naira monthly subsidy. FDI crashes to record low of $29.8 million. NIWA donates safety kits to Niger boat operators. Interesting. South Korean investors planning 4 Nigerian refineries, according to federal government. Rescuers comb lagoon for 5 missing boat passengers. Federal government 31-member panel to begin talks with ASU. Violence. Fubara orders probe. Wike alleges disobedience to court orders. Stop crude for loan deals, Dangote tells government. And OT faction loses as court declares Abure Labour Party chair. Federal government shops for PEMSEX from 8 states. That's all on the Punch newspapers.
All right. Away from the Punch this morning, let's go to the Vanguard newspapers, I believe. Coming up next, yes, it says there, arson, oil output in rivers threatened if, and that's from Governor Fubara. Of course, the former Governor Nyesom Wike is responding, saying that Fubara is the architect of the rivers crisis. Edo gubernatorial, again, INEC denies PDP and Igodalo access to beavers and other poll items. Sounds very familiar. I remember in the 2023 or post-2023 elections and during the tribunal, we saw some of these very similar stories. Nigeria can become a refining hub, says Dangote, as local airlines are to buy jet fuel only from Dangote refinery.
It's the only for me.
Says the federal government. Sounds very familiar as well. He no longer is making podcasts.
We miss him.
Yes. 21 feared dead and 11 rescued as boats collide in Lagos. Court orders INEC to recognize Abure as Labour Party's national chairman. Flooding, dread rivers Niger and Benue now, Senate tells Tinubu. I think these are big ones that we can find. Well, gunmen kill 5 in Anambra community. Big ones on the Vanguard newspapers.
All right, let's move over to the next paper, which is the Daily Independent newspaper. 16 states ask Supreme Court to declare EFCC unconstitutional. Tinubu vows to leverage technologies to boost transparency and efficiency. Senate asks for increased budgetary allocations to universities. PDP plotting violence in Imo, says state government. Many feared dead, 11 rescued as boat capsized in Lagos. Dangote says Nigeria can become a refining hub. Rivers local government poll. Those who burn secretariats must be held to account. Fubara vows, raises commission to probe arson and killings at council headquarters. And the new Rivers CP vows to tackle crisis in councils and restore peace. NWC Ugochinyere, trade words over PDP crisis. Q2 2024, Nigeria's capital importation drops by 23% to $2.6 billion. Shetima unveils framework for federal government's nationwide nutrition program. I think we'll start off with Rivers, because that's like the biggest story right now in Nigeria. Talk about the Rivers poll, the burning of secretariats, the probe that Governor Siminalayi Fubara has set up, and even Nyesom Wike claiming that Fubara is the architect of violence, refusing to obey court orders.
Well, for me, I think that we play too much politics to the detriment of peace and order in our state. And when a person is somewhat too power-driven, and with that ambition of power, and power can be very absolute when it gets too much. I think that's what is playing out, and every other thing will play out so dirty that the ripple effect is going to be way beyond what the state can handle if we're not careful. Port Harcourt, Rivers State, as a state, has always been known to be a very peculiar state in the country, with so many things, the boys on the street, the sort of power that exists when you talk about groups, and mildly put, groups that are sort of armed, are all over the place in the state. So politically, we need to be very careful about what is going on. I'm trying to be a bit careful as to what to say, because whether you like it or not, there are still some cases in court. Part of the problem also that I see is court judgments are sort of here and there. You have some judgments that are in favor and some that are not in favor. Whether state is saying something, another federal court is saying something else. And so it's creating a lot of unrest within the state. Power tussle is also there. Just yesterday, I saw a video of the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who is now the minister of the FCT, sort of speaking against his predecessor as to his, drive for power. And so we're seeing the same thing play out. So I think we just need to be careful from not allowing this go and degenerate, because now there are deaths and there are things that are not pleasant to be in the news.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much more careful, we need to be. The news reports reported 5 people already killed. Yeah. If lives have been lost, what next? What's the worst that would happen after that? It's already gone beyond, the be careful stage. And unfortunately, in the whole conversations, nobody's even talking about the people who have been killed. We're talking about arson and government buildings. And that is the worth of the Nigerian life. We're not even talking about the 5 people who were killed. We're talking about the government buildings that were reportedly torched. It's completely insane. And another thing with the Rivers conversation is people have said that Rivers State continues to have these battles because it is a key state for every political party because of campaign funding. And it's not the money we're talking about here is not like it's allocated to River State for campaign funding. It's the money for the state that successive governments have continued to use and wager to fund campaigns for, either the political party or whichever other political party. And we just have these conversations like it's normal. That, yeah, of course, Amechi would bring money from his state. Oh, yes, and Wike will bring money from his state for funding. It's completely insane.
It's an oil-producing state. So again, apart from, government, what comes from FARC and whatever it is, you also have a lot of players who have, deep pocket in the state. So again, that's where my heart goes to say we're talking about mundane things. And arguably, you would say those of us in politics are like that. We always cover the deep part of the conversation and present, something mild on the surface. 5 people are dead. In fact, even if it's one person that is dead because of this, is more than enough for a sort of somebody to come down, and every party should come down and have, intelligent conversations and not just be power-driven.
At the end of the day, what's the value of the Nigerian life? Because it seems that, you're saying even if it's one person, which is the truth.
Yes.
Even if it's one person, there should be answers. There should be questions. There should be people who will be fired. There should be people who will lose their jobs. That should account for the life of that one person. But that's not the reality of what we see in Nigeria.
It's probably not going to be the reality. I think what we may see play out would be a sort of a call or a quest for state of emergency in the state.
Okay. Let's move to the conversation concerning the Labour Party. The court ruled yesterday, of course, declaring Julius Abure the chairman of the party currently. And let's get your quick reactions to that. The initial claims was that the convention that was held by Julius Abure and co was an illegal convention, didn't follow the rules of the party or the Nigerian constitution. The courts have ruled, that there was nothing illegal about it.
Okay, so for me, I think we should understand that there are so many things playing out, in Labour Party. For every puppet, there's a puppet master pulling the strings. I have always said, and I keep saying it, that everything you see in Labour Party today is orchestrated by the puppet master pulling the string. So internal issues in Labour, in fact, Labour Party becoming a sort of a national party was orchestrated. It didn't just happen. Peter Obi didn't just show up in Labour Party. I can tell you for a fact that the day Peter Obi was going to Labour Party, I was landing in Abuja, and somebody from his camp was calling me to say they're shopping for a party for him. And okay, well, I said, come to this particular party, I'm going to the Secretariat. But they ended up in Labour Party. Now, there are other conversations back end as to how he ended up in Labour Party. So Labour Party had now become a sort of a national party because of Peter Obi, His Excellency. At the end of the day, Labour Party had always has its internal issues. And so when the party is suddenly becoming a national party, you don't expect it, that a structure that doesn't have a right foundation, not to have such issues like this. So that's what is playing out. The party and the so-called party ownership, those who are behind the party, just needs to sit back and do the right thing in setting things right.
All right, let's hold on. We'll come back to the conversation. We'll go on a very quick break. And when we come back, the conversations continue reviewing the papers around the country. Welcome back. We're still reviewing the papers this morning, and we're joined by political analyst Adebowale Johnson. Now, before we went on the break, we're talking about the Labour Party. The Punch says OT's faction, of course, loses as court declares Abure Labour Party chair. We've seen the drama and the trajectory of what the Labour Party has become in the past year. The last election was a big one for the Labour Party as it became a formidable third force, right? And what this will mean now, what one doesn't know, what this will mean for the next elections. What would this mean for, Peter Obi, for Governor Oti, and for the Labour Party?
I think the most important thing is that we should, the party should sort of just sit back and, really just call themselves together.
They've been sitting back. It doesn't seem like they're on the same page.
Actually, to tell you for a fact, even in Lagos, there was a time in Lagos they had two sort of factions. They had one led by Alhaji Salvador. I think there's another one that was led by Pastor Dayo Ekong. as the state chairman. So you had two different, even within Lagos. So nationally, I think the party has come to the limelight. And I will tell you, the obedient movement, as they call it, are already sort of having conversations to leave the party come 2027. And of course, we're already seeing some sort of coalition conversations. The person of His Excellency, Kwankwaso, has already said, it's possible he could even be a deputy or a vice, to Peter Obi in 2027 if the conversations goes right. So who knows the kind of conversations they're having on the back end. So at the end of the day, everybody wants to hold on to power. And that's always the part of the problem, and that's what is really causing all of these things that we're seeing. They should just sit back and, sort of restructure the party to have the right structure.
I'm curious to see what the next week or weeks will look like for the Labour Party, especially with this new court judgment. Although in Nigeria, that's the norm we see these days, different court judgments on the same matter. But there are those who call for Peter Obi and Obi Dati to form a new political party, to pull away from the Labour Party. Do you think that that might be an option that will be considered before the next election?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what's going to happen is coalition.
Basically. Yeah, but I mean, the challenge with the idea of coalition is Labour Party already seems to have persons within the party that, many would say are not working in the party's interest, or, somehow, somewhere are working for, in the interest of another, political party here and there. And so it's difficult to expect a coalition in a situation like that. Julius Abure has been repeatedly called out by even members of the party, of course, to clearly state where his loyalties lie. If you remember in Edo State, they barely were in Edo State campaigning with the Edo State candidate. They've thrown out their, presidential candidate of the party and said that the ticket
now
is
open
not
to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there's so many, and of course, the questions as to the credibility of the convention in the first place that they held.
Yes.
So I mean, I don't know that there can be a coalition formed when there are those pending issues. Lamidi Apapa, is there. Kalisu Sokafo is there. These people still exist. Who feel like their interests need to be remembered. We have Good Father who's joining us. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Good morning. Please go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Yes. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning.
And also good morning. I am Babari calling to state. Yes, I want to visit those states this morning, and I want to really know why INEC has denied PDP access to either the materials that they used in the last election. People have been reporting that there was mass rigging. Now the PDP is demanding either the IRF or other voting materials to be inspected. But INEC, a court has given INEC an instruction to allow PDP access to those documents. The PDP, according to you, what I heard from you, you said INEC refused PDP. So is it not true that PDP actually rigged the elections in Edo State? If it is not so, why can't you allow PDP to have access to what they have demanded for? That is my take this morning.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing.
That's
a very good question. Yeah. But, just before we come to PDP in Edo State, I just want us to quickly wrap up the conversation with the Labour Party. You talked about coalition being the way forward. A new political party will not be formed. He has highlighted several reasons why coalition might not be the way out. And even with Kwankwaso offering to deputize Peter Obi, a number of the reactions we've seen on social media, for example, I mean, we can't say categorically what it is because the Labour Party has not yet spoken on it, but a number of the reactions we've seen are people saying, no, you had your chance to form a coalition with us at the last elections and you didn't. We are okay with the Obi Dati campaign. So if it's either Obi Dati or nothing. So how do you then foresee this coalition looking like?
So we're marrying the obedient movement with Labour Party. So sometimes some of the conversations that you hear about Obi Dati are actually from the obedient movement and not from the Labour Party. So we need to sort of divorce those two. So that's why I said that the coalition is what is most likely going to happen. Rather than Obi Dati going to form another political party, they're most likely going to sort of form a coalition. We're already seeing moves by so many players at that level. Nasir El-Rufai, His Excellency as well, of course, making some moves. We're seeing moves by, from the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar. So all of those conversations will happen, and there will be some sort of coalition formed. And that coalition would then become another movement that would then shop for a political party to run under. But like I said, Labour Party has the undertone of a puppet that has a puppet master pulling the strings.
As it currently stands.
We'll come back to PDP because I do want
reasons why that is.
I do want us to speak about what Babari has highlighted, but we have a call from Osun State. Olaide, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Olaide from Oshogbo.
All right, thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about the River State crisis, and it's very surprising and it's very saddening that all the gains that we have been making over the years since the democracy returned in Nigeria, these people are taking us back. From Buhari, we thought that would be the worst ministry. Governor Wike was saying that because Governor Fubara did not accept the court order, that's why the problem is happening. And if you can remember, previously, this former governor has said that he will put fire in his face. Now, if governor did not accept the court order, I be the police officer that will enforce the law or that will enforce the court order. You see, and Governor Wike is doing this because he has the part of the presidency. If we have to move forward in this country, we have to do away with impunity. Everybody's just doing what they like. I think that's Nigeria.
All right.
Thank you very much, Olaide, for calling. Well, let's move away now to PDP. He's talked about River State and, we've talked about the Labour Party. PDP, our last caller had mentioned how INEC has refused to allow the People's Democratic Party access to inspect materials in Edo State. Yeah. Now, the report has it that the legal team representing the PDP and Igodalo, they were at the INEC office on Tuesday and they were not granted access. That they had gone on Monday, the INEC had asked them to come back on Tuesday, that even after presenting a court order, that they have not been granted access. And they are saying that they believe the game plan is to stall so that PDP will not be able to put in their appeal before the deadline on Saturday.
So I think that's what is playing out, and it's becoming rather obvious that that INEC is not being independent, and INEC has refused to be independent in being an independent umpire in setting a credible election. I think it's becoming just rather glaring, and there's nothing more to say than that. If truly INEC has nothing, and I can't blame any political party here. I can't blame APC or the APC and say, oh, it's because of the presidency and all of that. No, INEC in itself should sort of sit back and ask themselves the critical question: are we truly independent? Because yes, I was on a platform organized by Pastor Ito Ighodalo, of course, the brother of the candidate of the PDP. And this is a platform that every Thursday there's a conversation. And of course, post the election of the Edo State, there are enough. I believe the campaign, Pastor Ighodalo's campaign, has enough evidence to show that that election was incredible. Now, you could say everybody bought vote, everybody rigged election, but at least INEC should do the right thing by being independent. That's all I can say. Put it on the table, let everybody go and fight it out in court, and let the court decide.
Yep.
The problem also is that we shouldn't always wait for all our elections to go to the tribunal, to go to court, before we can have definite outcome of an election.
That's a long journey. That's really like you're asking for a lot.
But I mean, there are legitimate concerns, and many people have said 2027 elections, is really just going to be another waste of time and another very hurtful experience for the average Nigerian, because the experience from 2023 still leaves a lot of scars for many Nigerians who took part in the election, not just on the federal level, even on the state level across the country. And so if you're expecting to have the same process, the same people, the same electoral laws going into 2027, then, many people would rather not even get involved. And I don't know how we hope to develop our country that way, where 8 out of 10 people will tell you that the Independent National Electoral Commission should remove the I and just, name itself National Electoral Commission, because it's not independent. If our electoral laws are not changed to reflect a process that everybody can trust, to be free, fair, and credible, then what exactly are we doing?
So for me, I think my response to that, and which I've said, on many platforms, is that Nigeria is sitting on a dynamite. Literally, not on gunpowder, not on something that we could possibly survive if it's detonated. And that is why on a day-to-day basis, I'm quite worried as to how we're sort of projecting ourselves. And that's why I would say that I would rather not talk about any political party trying to undermine anything, but talk to INEC itself and say, INEC, if indeed you're truly independent and you, as the INEC chairman, whether at the federal or at the state, or you are an INEC official, is what legacy am I leaving for my children?
No,
what history am I?
The talk of legacy died in 1992 at least. At least 1992. You know, right after that, you know, anything concerning legacy, you know, is gone.
I think that's the problem. We're not thinking of tomorrow. We're just thinking about us today and what we can get and the money and all of that, rather than
it has always been my theory that one of the biggest challenges is poverty. And it's not poverty because of the simple no food to eat. It is poverty of the mind. It is poverty because people would rather figure out a way to earn a little today, you know, live no matter how long it would take them. The whole idea of, you know, having a lasting legacy, let me be known for those things, those people are not in political or government, you know, establishments today. I mean, if you remember maybe in the 90s, lecturers, doctors, you know, professors, engineers, you can see a lot of them, you know, that had a legacy to protect. Today, that doesn't exist. There's people the people who feel these positions you're talking about don't care about legacy. They need to pay rent. They need to fund their home. And those are the deciding, the tiny things that decide or help them, you know, make these decisions. It's rent. Yeah. It's survival. It is simply how we would survive to the end of the year. My salary wouldn't cut it. So if I'm going to be running as resident electoral commissioner or even, you know, just handling any polling unit, I need to figure out how I'm going to make some money out of it. That's really one of the things. So one of the guests that we had here about a week ago described elections as really just a food for all situation. To those selling their votes, to those buying votes, to those, you know, in charge of, you know, the polling units, to
and those running for office,
the security agents, to the resident electoral commission. That's really what it is. And again, I just don't know what we are doing. I mean, what's the use of these conversations if we can clearly see the flaw in the process that, you know, we're using to lead ourselves through democracy? And everybody would argue, many people would argue, this isn't a democracy, this is civilian rule. It's not necessarily a democracy.
So yeah, for me, I think we just need to call, I think I was on another platform, I think 2 weeks ago, and I said, you know, we were talking about the National Youth Confab. I said, yes, it's necessary for us to sort of have a conversations that kind of design the so-called Nigerian dream. Where do we want to go to as a people? Where do we want to see ourselves? What are the things that we're yearning for? Because at the end of the day, we're all just surviving.
Wait, did you say you are pro-youth confirm?
I think we need a sort of a conversation.
In 30 days? Or for 30 days?
So again, implementation is now the problem. Like I said, and just like somebody says, so what about the last one in 2015? Bring that document to the table, because whatever happened in 2015, there is no sort of guarantee that everything in that document is relevant today. Because this is post-COVID, this is in quote, the new world order, not the old world. So things are different now. So bring it to the table, let it become the foundation of the conversation. And the essence of, yes, let it be a youth confab, whatever title it is, it has to also be the youth anyway, and not the youth as to somebody like myself claiming to be youth. I mean, literally those who are within the age group. But the problem again is, what sort of mindset does those class of people have of today? Because we have sort of created a generation coming behind that don't seem to have any sort of value system beyond social media, dancing in front of TikTok.
And that's because the generation that has gone ahead hasn't even done well. The generation that has gone ahead hasn't. I agree with you. When they said the labors of our heroes past, the heroes past are still the heroes present and aspiring to be the heroes of the future. They're refusing to let go. And I think the argument, you've raised some points, but The flip side to that would be, what is the guarantee? We've been talking. They are always setting up panels to investigate this, panels to do that report. How many of the panels can you say that the reports have been implemented? Quick example will be on a report that was resurrected this year. And they gave 12 weeks for the implementation of the conclusion. Till today. Yes. So many people don't have trust, or they don't see the reason why this youth confab should happen, because right now people are hungry. Just sort out the basics. Let people be able to afford the basic things. Let people be able to afford food to eat. Let's have access to petrol without having to, pay through our necks. Because you set up this youth confab again, then they'll talk about a budget. Was there a budget for it? Was it budgeted for in 2024 budget? And then that would now be an opportunity for people to siphon money, and then you will start seeing how they'll be manipulating who has access to youth confab. COP 27 and all the other COPs will then come up, conversation about how is this ministry sending 1,000 people or sending 500 people. I think these are a number of the arguments against it. There are other stories that I'm hoping that we can take, but I don't know if we have time to be able to.
I also just wanted to say that when we stop deceiving ourselves in Nigeria, we would see some progress.
I agree.
When we stop deceiving ourselves as a people, those in government, those in civil society, we will see some progress. I saw a couple of days ago, an analysis showing that Morocco, I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but if I get the figures wrong, but Morocco, I believe, had raised or made about 10 to 13 billion dollars from their car industry in either 2022 or 2023. And forgive me if I'm wrong again, but I'm highlighting that to show that, again, when we stop deceiving ourselves, we'll do what is necessary. For now, we're really just dancing in circles, dancing like masquerades in the market. We're not serious yet. If with all the conversations that we're having, a youth confab is what, and let's be honest, it's for people to make money.
Exactly.
I agree with
That's
you.
what it is for. It's people are going to plug themselves into it. They're going to look for ways that they can, heighten the budget. People are going to make money.
For a government that has the highest cabinet that we've had, no.
All right. We need to go.
So
thank you so much for joining.
If I may say something, just like I brought in this issue of the confab, the youth confab. You're absolutely right, and we need to be careful. And I would just be saying this to everyone who is sort of pushing that conversation, and of course, to our president to sort of, take a backseat. We should have conversations, no doubt, but we should sort of look at it again and again and say, we want to make this right and let it not be the same regular old story, so that Nigerians can see things going right. Dangote refinery and that conversation, we need to have more detailed conversation about it. NNPC needs to bury their head in the ground.
All right.
And
We really need to go.
The
We need to go. Adebola Johnson, thank you very much for stopping by, for sharing your thoughts with us. We're going to get into another conversation now. Of course, it's centered around the Labour Party crisis. It comes up right next. Stay with us.
Against all odds, it seems Julius Abure has scored a win. The Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday reaffirmed Julius Abure as the legitimate national chairman of the party, the Labour Party. Justice Emeka Nwite solidifies Abure's position, directing the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to recognize and validate his leadership.
The court upheld the March 2024 NEWI National Convention that re-elected the Abure-led executive. Justice Nwite emphasized that Abure provided cogent, verifiable documents to support his claim, ultimately proving his case. This ruling is a significant development in the Labour Party's leadership dispute. Joining us quickly is the Labour Party National Publicity Secretary, or Factional National Publicity Secretary, Bayomi Arbambi. Good morning and thanks for joining us. I think I probably would start with saying congratulations on the court's ruling. But quickly, let's talk about what this means as it stands, and also the concerns that were initially put out by the Peter Obi and of course Alex Otin and Adi Usman and their interim committee, also with INEC, saying that the initial convention didn't follow the constitutional requirements and of course the party's requirements for a convention.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I think INEC is being economical with the truth it is not good in this our new political dispensation for a body like INEC, a creation of the law, to be coming out to the public, to be feeding them with an empty lies. You know, there are some lies that might have some substance, and there are empty lies. What INEC postulated to the public is an empty lies. They claim that convention did not conform with the Electoral Act, and that will be reading Electoral Act 2022 as amended, Section 82, Sub 1. Says notice of convention and congresses. I repeat, Section 82, Sub 1. Every registered political party shall give the commission, shall by Supreme Court said it is compulsory, not may. You don't have any discretion. The political party, they are not given any discretion here. You must comply. They said political party shall give the commission at least 21 days notice of any convention, congresses, conferences, or meeting convened for the purpose of a merger, electing members of its executive committee, another governing body, or nominating candidate for any elective offices specified under this act. Now, Section 82.5 is also very expedient here and explicit. They said failure of a political party to notify the commission as stated in subsection 1, that is in 82.1, shall render the convention, congresses, conferences, or meeting invalid. That's what the Constitution says. Now, if any political party is in breach of Section 82.5 of the Electoral Act, your meeting, congresses, and the local government will be invalid. Now, INEC came and said they did not monitor. That was the reason why they filed that counter to that suit. And what did the commission say? They said, Electoral Act 82.2, Sub 2 said, the commission may, with or without prior notice to the political party, attend and observe any convention, congresses, conferences, or meeting which is convened by a political party for the purpose of electing member, nominating candidate, approving merger, convention. That's what Section 82.2 says. That even if they do not,
all right, Mr. Arabambi.
You understand?
All right, please go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So, they should just go and monitor it. Now, they now came to the court with their empty lies that, oh, we didn't monitor. And the court, threw away their arguments because they were supporting the purported stakeholder that our constitution does not know that, oh, because they have some caretaker in place. So that is what this means. And that yesterday, honestly, it is a pure victory, over impunity, executive malfeasance, against members of the Talopa, and other political predators, and what I will call democracy assassinators. Because how could you come into a party, stakeholder from that matter, you said, oh, we dissolved the NWC. We are dissolving the state working committee. We are dissolving the local government. We are dissolving the world. Yeah. What manner of democracy?
For clarity, I understand the INEC claims. They said that your party didn't send a notice 21 days prior. Of course, your party has claimed that they did send a notice. And of course, INEC's presence at the convention is not necessarily important. It may or may not. That is clear. But let's talk about the convention itself. People have raised questions about the convention. That first of all, it didn't have, you didn't set up any ward congresses, local government congresses, and the likes before the national convention. So, clarify on that. Is this true? And did your party go through the legal means set by your party to set up a national convention?
You see, the problem with most of those leaders is that, they are still coming with their PDP attitude into Labour Party. We can hold our congresses at any time. They should not forget, we have done some congresses in 2021 when Abure was elected in Benin, March. They were elected in Benin as our national chairman, and Farouk Lawan was our national vice chairman, Northwest. He's from Kaduna, from the same place with Nenedi Usman. Nenedi Usman is still a member of PDP. That was when we elevated him for that position to the national secretary. And their name appear on portal because the name of the person on portal before was Abure as national secretary and A.A. Salam, the latest Salam as national chairman. So that one changes because of our next meeting in Benin. So there are some congress that we have done, but our constitution, there is no part of our constitution that says there shall be what local government, state congresses before convention. No, they were already PDP constitution. And that was the problem we have with OT, we have with Peter Obi, Nenedi Usman and co. All of them were already for the PDP constitution. They have not, put themselves of the toga of PDP. So when they come, they will come and be telling us that, oh, this is what the constitution said. I can assure you, this constitution I'm holding, Obi doesn't know anything inside it. Alex doesn't know anything inside it.
This
and even Nenedi Usman, I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming. Do you know that Alex dissolved state executive in Abia and elected his own junior brother, Emmanuel Oti, as state chairman? He dissolved our elected executive that was supposed to spend 3 years, and he elected Emmanuel Oti. It's not the people that want to govern Nigeria. You dissolved an executive council, and you now elected your junior brother. So when they win the presidency, they will go and bring their brother, their nieces as minister. They will go and make them ambassador. Is that what Nigeria called for?
Mr. Abambi,
they now go and dissolve a state executive and appointed his own brother.
Let's talk about Peter Obi and Alex Oti, whom you have, referred to in your answers. These have been referred to as the star boys, if I can use that lightly, of Labour Party. Alex Oti is one of, the biggest wins of the Labour Party in the last elections, undeniably. And Peter Obi, of course, is a very strong force with the obedient movement. There have been calls for Peter Obi to leave the Labour Party and start his own political party. And if you check the post where this announcement was made on X, if you look at the comments, a large majority of people who dropped their comments, a large majority of, even some of them supporters of the Labour Party, have shared their displeasure with the leadership of Julius Abure and the court judgment. So what happens if Peter Obi decides to leave the Labour Party? Do you think that the party can stand by itself?
The party have been standing before now, and I need to educate all those people that are just carrying media, social media membership, card, and social media INEC, a voter's card. We have won election in Delta with Great Ogboru, where we won many House of Rep and Assembly when he contested for governor. Omo Agege was a product of Labour Party before he crossed to the APC, just because he wanted to become Deputy Senate President.
All right.
We won an election when Obi was still, in his business with Mimico in Nigeria. So it is not a new thing, but let me tell you for fact, all those people dropping their comment, they were people that had two things with them. Their INEC membership card is on the internet, and their Labour Party membership card is on the internet. Are you getting me? So we are not part of about that. If they are not ready to at least obey our constitution, we wish them well in forming their obedient movement party, which all of them are voted. So they should go and form obedient movement party and leave our own party to go and contest for president election. So that when they win in 5 states, constitution will not be amended that when you win in 5 states, you can be declared as president.
All right. I think you've made that point very strongly. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Again, congratulations. We'll see how things turn out. Nenedi Usman put out a statement saying that they will be going back to court. So we'll see how things turn out, and we look forward to speaking with you again. Thanks for you.
They like the locals. They like locals to go to appeal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abambi. Thank you very much.
All right.
All right. We hope we can invite you to have the conversation again. As we wrap up the show today, we want to hold a thought for one of our lost colleagues who passed away exactly 1 year today. Kate was one of our team She was a part of our directors and part of our production team. We want to send our love to her family and to say that she would always, always be remembered. We will be back again tomorrow. My name is Olive Emodi.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.